All right. So now I would like to talk about the people who've inspired us in the reef aquarium hobby and in the aquarium hobby in general. And I think it's only fitting that you kick it off.
Yeah, so the reason I couldn't join Jake for a podcast last week was because my dad's been battling cancer a long time, and he passed away this weekend. So, we were by his side. But that got Jake and I talking about, the role of our parents in our passions, in our hobbies. Good parents help stimulate that. My dad was not a reef hobbyist, but it's funny, I talked to my mom about it a bit as well, and growing up, he was not allowed to have any pets, right? His parents were like, no pets. So, he told my mom when they got married, like, first thing I want to do is get a dog, But he did have apparently a little water garden going on back in Holland back in the day when he was younger, and he would catch freshwater eels, which us Dutch people love to eat. And he'd just catch all kinds of, anyone that's been to Holland knows there's what we call sloats or creeks everywhere, right? So you could just go back there and you could get all kinds of aquatic plants like kabamba and elodia and stuff growing like crazy in there, and bitterlings, if anybody knows what those are, that lay their eggs in mussels. And so apparently he was doing that, and I'm like, well, that explains where I got that from, But never gave me a hard time about my hobby, my tanks, leaks, right? I had a big saltwater aquarium.
Especially when you're young, you're not prioritizing the cleanliness factor.
Yeah, and they were supportive of that, it's not like I had to keep it all up in my bedroom. There was a big old saltwater aquarium in the living room at one house, and another house that was in the basement, but that's where I hung out, so. But it's just, it got me thinking too about myself. My kids are not into my hobbies, at least not yet. But whatever they do get into, I just got to have that same approach, right? No matter what the mess is, if it does damage to my house or whatever, just let them do it, because you never know where that ends up, right?
Right.
So, as those kids grow.
I can say for a fact I would not be doing anything like what I'm doing now if it wasn't for my mother. She came home one day when I was 13. So we always had a couple bowls here and a radiator slider and a couple of guppies. I don't really count that as the beginning of my aquarium keeping experience, right? Because that would be all my life. But it's when I really started paying attention. So she came home one day kind of an impulse buy and had I think it was a 30-gallon tank with 3 white veil tails and 3 black moor goldfish. And I think all but one died within a few weeks, because we didn't know nothing about nothing. Just the most clueless non-aquarist ever. And very quickly you learned about the nitrogen cycle and better filters than the little bubble up thing we were doing, because goldfish are produce a lot of waste. And oh man, within 3 to 4 months we must have had 10 tanks, and within a year I had 20 tanks everywhere, because this fish ate that fish, and so we had to give him his own tank. And then the tilapia buttacophori was so mean, I kept him in a tub by himself. He was still super cool. Then I had my African cichlid tank, and I didn't set up one saltwater tank. I set up 2 at the same time. It was a 29 and a 30-gallon right next to each other. I think we bought them off the Trader, which is a printed classified ad, and that was our jam. That was us scanning for stuff. And I think I had a Lee's bubble up, Lee's air driven protein counter current protein skimmer in there. And just started snapping up all the magazines and reading about everything. And man, I had my first zebra pleco within about a year, and just went all the way, just all the freaking way. And I guess when kids are teenagers, they're looking for something. They're looking for something to be into besides girls or video games or cars or drugs. And I wasn't into any of those things. I think back then we're still only talking about Super Nintendo. And I played those at my friend's house or whatever, but I wasn't just totally absorbed by it. But when I got into aquariums, man, any book I wanted, she'd always take me to the library. we drove to every store in like a 3-state area. You know, by the time I was 14, I'd visited every fish store in Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and a little bit in Kentucky. And it was just, you know, like, you know, I have my first hot magnum, the first filter I ever bought, like, you know, like educated purchase, was an Emperor 400, and the second one was a Hot Magnum 250. I still have my Marineland Hot Magnum 250. It doesn't have a button on the outside. The impeller's long since gone. I haven't used it in a long time, but I still have it. You know, but just the support that was offered to me in that regard is just, that's priceless, man, because now it's my life, my entire lifestyle. It's shaped our friendship. It's provided us with reef therapy. You know, I've traveled around the world on this ticket of visiting aquarium people and aquarium places and reef places, and I know a lot of people can relate.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that butterfly effect, right? The little flaps its wings, and what does it turn into? But it's crazy. I mean, my dad, we moved around a lot. I think we moved on average, every 2.5 years. We had some long stints in certain places. But because of his job as a civil engineer, we were in the Middle East, right? So we're jamming in the Red Sea and Persian Gulf stuff. And, before I was born, they lived in the Bahamas. But so what's funny is, like, we were picking up stuff off the beach, and, that washes ashore after storms and stuff, and we're collecting shells. And then you get older and you get in the reef hobby, and you're like, holy crap, that's a cone shell. And and then we've got like tridacnid shells this big, and all of that was just like in my house. And it just cracks me up. But yeah, you talked about like books and publications. Like when I wanted my FAMA subscription or Aquarium Fish Magazine subscription, no question, just go for it,
Yep.
So yeah, it's it definitely makes me think of like how much he influenced, even just, I mean, obviously, given it was so recent, I'm thinking about a lot of things about him and how he shaped my life. But since this is about the hobby, of course, like I definitely thought about that as well, of just like how much of a profound influence somebody like that can have. And I mean, the lesson there for me is like, I got 2 kids, and I gotta, dude, if they want to keep reptiles, which I don't like, no, I don't. I
think you could get down with some turtles.
Yeah, I mean, we did have we had a bearded
easy.
dragon for a while, because my daughter wanted one. I mean, I've never said no to that stuff, but like, just whatever they're into, just go for it. Just I have a European friend who didn't know squat about baseball, was so excited to teach his kid about soccer, and the kid just got stoked on baseball, and he's like, I guess I'm learning baseball, and now the dude loves baseball. So your kids also broaden your horizons too, right? So
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, no, I think this is a condolences on your father, but you're a good strapping young man, and I think you'll do well.
Same.
Yeah, definitely shout out to my mom and your dad, and I'm sure everyone has someone in the hobby that they started young that really had a huge influence on their experience of being in the reef aquarium or aquarium hobby or other hobbies. So yeah, definitely let them know what they've done for you, so that they know.
Yeah, and spend as much time as you can with them, because especially with all the COVID stuff that happened too, that was pretty crazy. And I know people lost a lot of loved ones, but you just don't know how much time you have somebody, so it's a good reminder just to do that, to spend time with them.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, I think on that note, this has been a great